Hello and welcome to the Athletic NBA Show. It's Friday and I'm Dave DeFore, and that means it's Nerder. She wrote, joining me as they do each and every week, Seth and Mo. What's up, guys? I want to jump in because we have a lot to cover, and I know you guys have to get back to covering the Euro League Final Four. You covered Game 1 this morning. How was it?
I mean, it was good. Olympiacos with a massive 1-2-3 punch combo at the start of the second half, going on a 27-2 run for the entire third quarter, blew that game open.
One of the great 0-point performances you'll ever see by Olympiakos' point guard Thomas Walkup, who they struggled to create anything in the first half, and then he just carved Monaco's defense up with his penetration and passing in the second half, and really was a huge key to the game, despite taking 0 shots.
Seth, don't let Jokic hear that, because then he might just go, "Oh, really?" and try to go hold my beer.
It's like the game that Larry Bird decided to play left-handed.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't shoot, but I have to dominate. Well, let me see what I can do.
Well, don't forget, guys, you can catch them over at playback.tv on the Nerder stream. They're doing the EuroLeague games all weekend. They've obviously been doing playoff games all playoffs. And you can catch the Athletic NBA Show doing the Daily Ding every single night, except for Friday and Saturday, because, got to take the weekends off. But we're doing the Daily Ding over on the Athletic NBA Show YouTube channel and sportsbusinessclassroom.com. Go and check it out. The live immersive experience is filling up fast, but we're still taking applicants. So go check out sportsbusinessclassroom.com when you get a chance. Guys, this show is going to be extremely reactionary. This is how the playoffs work. And in particular, we're going to react to Michael Malone's post-game comments for most of the show. This guy has just come out with a flamethrower. He has the full attention of the national media covering the Lakers, obviously, as we all have to. I mean, it's part of the job, and they happen to be a really good team and have one of the greatest players of all time. So a lot of attention there. And Michael Malone is absolutely coming out throwing haymakers. I want to point out this one thing that he said, because it has really ruffled some feathers. This is Michael Malone speaking. You win game 1 of the playoffs, and all everybody talked about was the Lakers. Let's be honest. That was the national narrative. The Lakers were fine. They were down 1-0, but they figured something out. No one talked about that Nikola had a historic performance. He got 13 triple-doubles now, 3rd all time. What he's doing is just incredible, but the narrative wasn't about the Nuggets. The narrative wasn't about Nikola. The narrative is about the Lakers and their adjustments. So you put that in your pipe, you smoke it, you come back, and you know what? We're going to go up 2-0. I'm a fan of that, guys.
Yeah, I think it's a fair comment from him. I think this is a people that listen, a lot of the reaction behind that has been like, "Oh, he's insecure, the Nuggets are insecure," all that stuff. Yeah, because we've done this to them all season long. They were besides the basically the number 1 team in the Western Conference all year, and that blip in the end of the season where they played poor basketball, and we all kind of assumed that was weakness. It was just them kind of just not playing hard. We've just all year, well, they can't win it. They're not going to win it. They're not going to. It's the Lakers are doing it, the Warriors, the Suns, and I'm guilty of it too. Last week's pod, I had kind of had the mea culpa, like I was guilty too, like of that. And so I understand where he's coming from in that regard. And then just the fascination that we have with the Lakers, it part plays into it, where Rui Hachimura got more pub than Nikola Jokic. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, the pregame interview was with Rui Hachimura, which, by the way, he's a great story, and he's had a fantastic playoffs, had a great game too. No, this is not a knock on Rui Hachimura, but it is, Seth, kind of just the way things work, right? Like, I mean, the Lakers are the story here, and maybe I'm mostly okay with that, but I do like Michael Malone kind of pointing out that you have another all-time great here too.
The equivalent would be if the game 3 pregame interview was with Bruce Brown.
Right.
And there's just like none chance of that happening. And it's sort of And again, as Mo said, this is not in any way a shot at Rui Hachimura. Has been good all playoffs, great in the first 2 games of this series. Was I possibly the best player on the floor in the first half last night. So, credit to him. Like, it's not saying that like they're making up that he's playing well. It's just like, what are we talking about here? Like, the Lakers made an adjustment that gave one interesting, and they ultimately lost. And why is that being made to feel like a defeat for the Nuggets? And again, it's as Mo was saying, like all year, it's just like, yeah, well, the Nuggets won't win it, so this team, so the Suns, so the Warriors, so the Clippers if they get healthy, um, the Lakers once they make trades, and we've kind of all season, frankly, have been a little disrespectful to Denver and how good they are, how good Nikola Jokic is, how people are just discovering the 2-time MVP is an all-time great player. So I guess if all this sounds like I'm here for what Mike Malone is selling right now, I am absolutely here for what Michael Malone is selling right now, and it's stuff that I too am saying, but I don't have quite the microphone that he does. So go ahead and cook.
I mean, look, there is a certain amount of like just reality. The Denver Nuggets are not a marquee franchise in the league. Like, I understand they're not getting a ton of national games because they don't have as many fans. Like, there's a lot of reasons why they don't get the coverage. And our good friend Adam Mares over at DNVR has really probably the best Denver Nuggets coverage anywhere, frankly. And that sort of came out of the lack of Nuggets coverage, even locally. I mean, it's a Broncos town. So it starts at home too. And we've been guilty of this the last couple of years, patting them on the head. I mean, but they made a conference finals not that long ago. I mean, this is not like it's their first trip to the playoffs even. This is a team that's been there, and under Michael Malone, when healthy, man, they get better every single year. This is like a natural progression. So, it's easy to recognize, but also I understand why they can feel that way.
Yeah, but it's also like we don't allow the Nuggets to have any excuses for the past 2 years of the playoffs. Like we constantly go, well, the last 2 years of the playoffs have been, failures for them. Really? They lost Jamal Murray for the past 2 years of the playoffs. Last year, they had dudes like Facundo Campazzo playing for them and things like that. Like, we're really going to hold that against the Nuggets that they haven't been healthy, but we don't hold it against the Clippers, right? When they're not healthy or anything like that. It's that ridiculous kind of double standard stuff that we play with that. And it's, the narrative kind of even going into the season, well, the Nuggets have to do it this year. Well, they're fucking doing it now. And let's give them the respect now that they're doing it, that they've made it to the conference finals. They're up 2-0 now. And I think that's where this kind of stems from. And I think those are the things that we got to kind of focus on here a little bit. And we get away from just what makes them so special. And I think some of it also is on the league. Got to do a better job marketing them. And yes, this is probably the first time like casual fans are getting to know Nikola Jokic. So, you can, I thought Jalen Rose's comments were incredibly stupid when he's like, he's a superstar now, but it also makes some sense in the sense of like, he's on the spotlight when everybody's watching. And I think that matters to a degree, but that's on the league. They got to do a better job marketing these guys and this team. And I think that's an important aspect that we're just missing across the board with that. So like, I'm here for Malone. Do it. I don't even give a shit that Laker fans are going to cry because let's just be honest, you should be crying that your team's down 0-2 more than worried about what Michael Malone is saying. And honestly, like it's a reality of it. And a coach fighting for his team to get respect is going to get respect in my book.
I mean, to Laker fans, I remember the documentary on the University of Miami football. Shout out to Bruce Brown again. As one of the receivers from those teams is like, you don't want me to dance, don't let me score. You don't want Michael Malone to talk about how the Nuggets are up 2-0. Don't let him go up 2-0 and win games. And then that's so like to the victors go the spoils. And again, glad to hear it.
How much of the Jokic thing is the outsourcing of marketing? The NBA like markets the good teams and they haven't won a title yet, but like he doesn't have a Nike deal that I know of, right? Like he doesn't have like a signature shoe. And I know centers aren't going to sell shoes anyway, but is that part of this?
Part of it is Jokic is more like Mike Trout than anything
That's
else,
right.
where he
Just
doesn't
wants to
give
go
a shit
race his
about
horses,
it. Yeah,
man.
exactly. If you offered a sponsorship deal for his horses, he might be more interested than a sponsorship deal for himself. And I think that's kind of some of it is Jokic, but I think also, like Dave, you said, like, oh, they haven't won a title. The Boston Celtics, this iteration hasn't won a title. They've gone to the finals,
Boston
sure, but
Celtics.
we're gonna go nuts about them, right? And all of those things, we go completely ballistic. And I think it's just one of those things. I think the NBA has to do a better job of marketing these guys so that everybody sees it across the league. Of like, yo, this dude's incredible to watch. Yeah, Seth and I, we just watched the dude with Wallop with 0 shots basically dominate a game. That's what Jokic does. And he scores and he dominates at every level. Like, it's impressive. And I just think we need more of that. But we got to move on, man. We got more important stuff
Let's
to
talk
talk
about
about.
the games, but maybe there's like an anti-AVA bias or something. By the way, Jokic does have some commercials in Serbia, and I highly recommend going and finding those. They're on YouTube. Just Google them. They're really funny. Jokic is a super funny guy, so like it comes across in those commercials.
Can I ask a question about this? Well, as
Sure.
we're moving on, I wonder how long was it into Tim Duncan's career before he kind of was like, oh yeah, it's just kind of his greatness is just sort of unspoken. I feel like it took a little bit because in some ways, like they aren't like one-to-one comparisons, but just in terms of the level of kind of self-promotion. This isn't to say like, I don't think like Embiid self-promoting is fake in any way. I just think
No.
he's kind of an ebullient personality. Um, and so I just wonder, it did took a while for Tim Duncan also. It's like a certain amount of, yeah, we won titles, we're good every year.
That's not a one-to-one, because Duncan came in as the number 1 pick. Everybody knew he was going to be the number 1 pick as a freshman.
Yep.
And he stayed 4 years in college. So I think that's not really a one-to-one. Whereas Jokic, who goes 41 in the draft during a Taco Bell commercial, like there's just not the limelight is not going to be shown to him in that way. Duncan came in with the expectations of he's going to be great. And that led to that. You know what I mean? Like, teams that lost that lottery were reacting the way teams lost the Wembanyama lottery, knowing that they lost a possible generational guy. So I think that's kind of the difference in that sense.
Yeah. Okay. Back to more comments from Michael Malone, guys. He had a great line, and it kind of sums up the first 2 games of this series. Specialists don't play in the playoffs. And I think that in games 1 and 2, we kind of saw quite a bit of that, guys. The lineup changes that the Lakers have made, Mo, you got the argument that they're losing in pregame.
I mean, first off, that comment isn't just the first 2 games. That's just that describes the entire playoffs. That's the playoffs. That's a 16 game player versus an 82 game player. And it goes back to, like, you need to be a 2-way player in the NBA to a degree, or your 1-way better be so fucking amazing that you can survive the other way. I think the comment about the Lakers, just kind of, the Lakers are searching in their starting lineups. I didn't like their starting game 1 and starting Schroeder right away, because that's a card you can play later. Like, see how it starts out, and then you don't stay with it for game 2 and you go back to your original starting lineup. So it's like you're kind of signaling to the Nuggets right away, hey, we're running out of questions. We're playing a lot of cards early, and we haven't figured out the right hand to play at this point. And I think that's an important aspect there.
I do think it also should be noted that as we're just celebrating, Mike Malone for taking his shots. That quote was in response, I believe, to a question about Jamal Murray having
Jamal Murray. That's right.
Yeah. So it while it sounds like he has taken shots across the bow of D'Angelo Russell, that was not actually the intent of that, though it works as such.
Yeah, but Jamal Murray got cooked in game 1, and Mo, you said this before. I mean, the biggest difference between game 1 and game 2, Jamal Murray, was that he actually fought when he got stuck on LeBron. I mean, he gave it up in game 1, but he actually tried, and LeBron hit a couple of hard shots in
I'd say
game
in the
two
second
that
half.
weren't difficult. Second half for sure.
I don't even think he fought that hard, to be honest with you. I think LeBron just took a number of bad shots and didn't force the issue on him. And I don't think the Lakers did a good job of how they attacked Murray, how they got Murray into switches and then tried to get him onto LeBron. I think there's a lot of those things with that. I don't think Murray actually fought hard really in that game. He just got away with it. And just the pure fact, he literally caught fire in the fourth quarter. No, he might still be smoking. Like he still might be like patting out flames right now. He was so damn hot in the fourth quarter, you couldn't take him out. But you have to go look at that game. That third quarter run that the Nuggets made to get back into this game when kind of make it a game was with Murray on the bench. And I think that goes to what Michael Malone is saying of like, yeah, you got to be able to play defense. And I think that changed the game for the Nuggets. And then just by circumstances, he got completely hot at the right time. And then it covered up his defensive flaws in that area. But that's a big line. Specialists don't play in the playoffs because we've seen it across the board.
I'm watching this game last night, and this is a crazy thing to say, but I'm thinking to myself, man, Murray's been so bad and Bruce Brown's been so good. Do you ride Bruce Brown down the stretch and maybe bench Murray and go more defensive and have KCP, with Gordon and Michael Porter Jr.? That's how good Bruce Brown has been, especially getting downhill when D'Angelo Russell's in the game. Speaking of issues, D'Angelo Russell and Jared Vanderbilt are kind of a problem for the Lakers. This goes back to the specialist comment. And again, this is not who Michael Malone meant, but this is the way I'm taking it. Having guys who can only play one way. I mean, Vanderbilt gives the Nuggets a break on offense. And I mean, D'Lo is just a sitting duck. So, I mean, what do you guys think the Lakers do game 3 with those minutes? I mean, they've got to figure out a way. Dennis Schroeder's been really great, but how long can you ride him with the effort that he's putting out on defense?
I think that's an interesting question, but that also I think is sort of Mo has been making the point that the Lakers kind of pre-adjusting with their starting lineup and almost ceding the ground to Denver. I don't totally agree. I think they're just making the wrong adjustments. That sounds bad because they're like, I don't want to be like coaching adjustment Twitter guy. But on one hand, there's the danger you don't start D'Angelo Russell, you lose him. Okay, well, if you ride with him, you lose games because of him. So which do you care? Like Schroeder's got to play. Schroeder on Murray is like any other matchup, and they were just getting cooked. Like part of the run, the big fourth quarter run. Perhaps the biggest shot, and I thought wasn't actually Murray. It was Michael Porter Jr. And he gets an open 3 because LeBron has to help on Murray because D'Angelo Russell gets hung up on a screen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to push back on that stuff there. First, with the D'Angelo Russell, it's not about you might actually lose him. There is a possibility D'Angelo Russell starts out a game and knocks 4 threes down. It's a legitimate thing. It's not even anything sensible. You have to give him a run to see what we're getting. He is so inconsistent as a player, but there are times where he streaky as hell and he gets hot all of a sudden. I don't think you can do that with him coming off the bench. And I think that's why you have to kind of start him to just see what you have. Schroeder should play more minutes than him.
Yeah. Well, their best five, Mo, is Schroeder, Reeves, Rui, LeBron, and AD. And I think,
in this series, I think at least.
Yeah.
So that should be majority of minutes.
Right. And it's not always about who starts, it's who you're closing with. And I think that's more what I'm concerned about in that sense. So I actually think the Lakers have to start D'Angelo for that reason. And on that play you're talking about, Seth, that's actually just a death nail play that the Nuggets run. Like, it's just not fair. It's a fucked up play in a good way for the Nuggets. It's Jokic holding the ball at the high post. You can't help off of that screen. And when Murray sets the screen or when Porter sets the screen and D'Angelo Russell's got to fight over the top, even if he gets around the screen, LeBron still has to take a step or two back because he's got to at least help on that play for a second before getting to Murray. And then Jokic with the live dribble, you can't jump off of Jokic to go to anything. It's a torture chamber play. It's an entirely different play when it's Aaron Gordon coming off of that screen, right? Like, then you're just like, let him shoot. But it's when it's MPJ, it's different. And it was a huge shot. And it's an unbelievable play. It's one that I would imagine keeps the Lakers staff up at night with like, how do we defend this play? Because it's an impossible one to defend. So I don't know if even if Schroeder's in it, I still don't think you still have to help on that Murray play for a second, and LeBron's going to be late. And let's not also act like LeBron's been all that sharp on his timing defensively in on those things.
Although I thought some of his pick and roll defense was pretty good. His hands were super active last night, but I think it's because his legs didn't want to be.
I also think that we talked about, and this is where the playoffs is such a like ball that everything kind of plays together. One thing plays into another. Like we were talking about Murray getting away with getting switched onto LeBron. A lot of that in the fourth quarter was LeBron expended so much energy defensively, and he was great defensively in the third quarter. He expended so much energy defensively because he's holding up against Jokic, trying to back down. He's rotating. He's getting steals. He's digging down, stripping the ball away from players. And then fourth quarter, he didn't have the legs anymore because he's 38. Like even if he's LeBron, he's 38. And this is, in some ways, the Lakers, at least at altitude in Denver, stretched a little thin. And like, how much can you ask him to do at this point in his career? When he was 28, go all day. But
let me ask you. Okay, listen, it's LeBron James. You're not saying he should be deferring to anyone. But Austin Reeves had a lot of success creating off the dribble. Like maybe that was a way to go, and you allow LeBron to do a little bit more secondary. Like I feel like you could save his legs a little bit and maybe allow him to load up.
This was Mo's point earlier about not attacking Murray smartly. Is when Murray, when Murray is matched up on Reeves, and that's been the screen for LeBron. It's been absolute lunch meat. And part of like the downside of Schroeder being in the game is you put Murray on Schroeder, and it's not quite the same level of threat. And Mo, I think the point you're making is you do some preceding action to get that switch. So first Reeves gets onto Reeves, then you put him in the action.
Well, and also with the cross matching going on, I don't know if you guys noticed it. I mean, Jamal Murray's been getting stuck on LeBron a lot just to start possessions. I mean, they're not being super aggressive pre-switching to get to their matchups or anything. So if I was the Lakers, I'd be looking to take advantage of that instead of slowing up.
But I think also that's on LeBron to take advantage of that in game 3, or game 3. Jesus, I'm way ahead of time. Game 1, down 3 with about a minute left, LeBron gets a rebound and in transition has Murray matched up in front of him and doesn't do anything with it and pulls up for a 3 at the top of the arc. Like, it's just like, no, dude, like you have Murray on you. You're down 3. There's a lot of time left. You need to drive right there. You need to go and attack. That's the matchup you've been killing. You've been killing. You got what you wanted. And they're going to help when you drive. There might be a kick out 3. And it's like there's a passivity with LeBron, and some of it's probably fatigue. And listen, I know the Mile High thing. I know the win. Believe me, I've been there. I've played games there. I didn't play. The guys played, but I was a video guy there for that. So I understand the issue with that. I'm not giving him that excuse. You got to go do it. It's hard. So it's fucking winning a championship. You got to do the hard shit. And that's the stuff there. The passivity from LeBron in that sense was the thing there where I was like, man, like, you're just going to pull up for a 3 right there. The 3 threes that he took in the fourth quarter of this game 2, were terrible shots. They might be fatigue related, but don't take those shots. Then give it to somebody else, create for somebody else. But it was, or like you're saying, Dave, defer to Reeves. Like it was a tough watch right there in watching LeBron in those games and those plays in particular.
And speaking of, I want to bounce to another. If I'm the Lakers and I'm watching this game back, I'm watching the first half of that game and I'm kicking myself because the Nuggets were awful in the first half of that game. And the only reason they were still in the game, by and large, was Lakers' terrible transition defense. And that's point 1 of that, and this is something that was the case in game 1 as well, is Anthony Davis, who is your interior protector. Like essentially what's happening a lot of these times is Denver's getting a rebound, getting a steal, inbounding the ball off a make, pushing the ball down the floor, and somebody is going right at a Laker perimeter player, goes right through him to the rim, lays it in. Now you can say, okay, Russell or Reeves or Schroeder has to put up more resistance, but also that's what Anthony Davis is there for. And Anthony Davis is in a trot back to the top of the arc. And it's not just, there's not even plays where he's, oh, well, Jokic is going to shoot a trail three. He's guarding Jeff Green. He's guarding Aaron Gordon in transition. And he's sauntering to the top of and it's a little bit on LeBron too. LeBron is like, sees a guy coming and kind of is just like, shit, he beat me there. And so I am.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, Seth, because I happen to have made a one more thing on the Lakers transition defense. And it's not just even that. They're breaking just the basic transition defense rules. They're not stopping the ball in transition in both games. Games one, I had so many goddamn clips. I had to spend an hour just whittling it down to, okay, which ones do I want to show? I could do like another 10 minutes just on that. But they're not stopping the ball in transition. The Bruce Brown, at least 2 coast-to-coast
straight line drives.
Jeff Green yesterday with a big dunk with the baseline drive. They're not getting any floor balance. Jamal Murray got an easy leak out because D'Angelo Russell doesn't care to get back when Austin Reeves goes up for a shot. It's, when you're talking about Anthony Davis, there's a rule in transition defense. It not rule, I guess, but like Pat Riley used to have a drill where it was about your first 3 steps in transition defense. Those are your most important steps in transition defense. I'm telling you, watch AD in transition defense. When the shot goes up and the Nuggets have a rebound, his first 3 steps are incredibly slow and puts him behind the play. Like, their transition defense has been so god awful. And it's been bad all season. But if they could these games have been so close that if they could just find a way to just play better transition defense 3 more times in a game, they're probably in a position to win those games at the very end. And I think that's just a massive one right there for them that they got to be looking at and going like, God damn, guys, we can't get back. They stopped crashing the offensive glass and still gave up transition buckets.
I mean, it's pretty pitiful. I love that you hit the bullet point that I had next, just organically. That was perfect. Now let's swing it to the Nuggets, because the Nuggets have not been perfect here. Jokic basically has, but nobody else.
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree. I thought he was bad yesterday.
Yeah, he wasn't great. But they have an Aaron Gordon problem offensively, and he doesn't want to touch the ball. And that's a big issue. Jamal Murray completely looking him off when he's just wide open by himself. Now, that says a lot about Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is trying to get himself going at the time, but it also tells you that his teammates are kind of losing some confidence there because he will not shoot. If he's not going to shoot, he just can't be on the court. And you run into game 3, we'll see what happens, but I think he's going to be left even more on an island. He doesn't want to shoot.
You take it. You take a. There was one play. I thought they did it well. One play in game 2, and I think Mo and I are both not a fan of Gordon just hanging out in the dunker spot. If AD is not the guy guarding Jokic, just lets AD out. But there was one play where instead of just hanging out in the dunker spot, he went and set the hammer screen for MPJ. AD had to switch out on him, and then you ended up with Austin Reeves on Gordon. And Gordon, hard right-hand drive, Euro step through his chest dunk. And I think you can take a page almost out of the Warriors book where Draymond doesn't always look to score. But you know what Draymond looks to do? He will sprint with the ball, without the ball, right at a shooter, set a crushing screen.
Right.
And now you have no help on that screen. And that was the one time that Denver did that. And I think that doing some of that, because Aaron Gordon is not the playmaker, is not the ball handler that Draymond Green is, but he is a good enough playmaker, a good enough ball handler, plays well enough on the roll. And if he gets his shoulder into a guy, and he's done this several times across the series, where if he's got a smaller guy, and sometimes even if it's got LeBron on him, gets the shoulder into him, Euro step dunk. You get him the ball in those spots, he can be very effective. And I think that they can, just by letting him set screens and then play on the move instead of just standing and trying to draw Davis away from the basket by spacing. I think that's an adjustment that they need to figure out how to get to work.
Let me ask this question. Who are you playing instead of him?
It would be Bruce Brown, or you'd be downgrading in size. And that's the one issue.
No, I mean, I think they're going to, it's actually going to be Jeff Green. And you think the Lakers are going to fucking guard Jeff Green?
Well, Jeff
Like,
Green though can stick a corner three, and I'm not saying that that's
can
the
he? He's
end
not
all
shooting
be
it that well. Like,
Yeah, how many does he have to make before AD like stops camping?
guards him. That's the
Yeah.
that's going to be the thing.
It's so it's like, when everybody's like, oh, space the floor, the Lakers aren't. They're rather going to have Jeff Green shoot corner threes than Jokic or Murray or Porter go like in that sense. And then they're giving up stuff defensively. And then they're giving up stuff also in transition, although I literally just talked up Jeff Green's transition. Dunk. But I think what the stuff we do like from Gordon is the early rim runs and those types of things.
And grab and goes.
Yeah. And I think those are the stuff you're kind of losing in that sense. Yeah. I think they can move him around in different areas and kind of play with it a bit and keep him out of the dunker spot. But I just don't think they have a viable guy that I would be like, okay, this guy should be playing over the other guy. And I think this is something that fans, media, pundits, we all have to kind of look at it when we always say they can't play this guy. Cool. Who's the next guy? We never say who the next guy is.
And it's the difference between they can't.
Go ahead.
No, it's not that it's not and especially with a good versatile player. Aaron Gordon is a good versatile player.
Play.
It's not you can't play. It's you can't. They shouldn't play him that way.
Right.
Like they did go to one of their pet actions. I think it was right at the start of the it's an ATO in the third quarter, maybe, or no, the second quarter, where they went to one of their pet actions. It's kind of a snug pick and roll with Gordon setting a ball screen for Jokic into a lob, and like LeBron did a nice job sussing it out.
Right.
But maybe you do that. Like maybe you just give a different look so it's not just AD helping up from the dunker spot, standing right at the rim, waiting to,
Seth's so excited he knocks out.
Yeah, here's my thing. Look, when they switched AD onto him, you bring AD up into the ball screen. Like, just do a Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon pick and roll. Get the switch that you want. Hope Jamal will attack. But the other thing is you're just pulling AD up, hanging out in the dunker spot. You let him float around, and he's not even playing center field. He's playing free safety. That's the thing. He's able to cover so much ground that he was essentially double teaming Jokic while shutting off the weak side. I mean, it was a good defensive move by the Lakers, but to me, that was the easy solution. Just start getting Aaron Gordon involved in the action on the ball.
And that only works if Rui Hachimura and LeBron can continue to hold up against Jokic, right? Like that's kind of the other aspect of it too. And I think you could have more movement along the weak side and other things and open up other opportunities. So like, I don't know, Michael Malone, is a good coach. And I think, like he'll find ways to adjust off of that stuff. But I just don't think the answer is don't play Gordon. I think it's move him around a little bit. And just to hammer the point, Jeff Green shooting 25% from three in the playoffs. Like, I'm just saying, Gordon's actually shooting 32% from three. They're not going to guard Jeff Green on the perimeter.
I really want Gordon to shoot. I really want Gordon to just take the shots. Like, they're open. They're coming in the flow of the offense. Just shoot them. You have one of the best offensive rebounders in the league inside, just ready to play the tip drill all day long. Jokic gets his hand on every single offensive rebound he goes for. Just get the ball up there.
I think the another person that I think we want to see just shoot, and he unusually passed up some shots and drove at times yesterday, is Michael Porter Jr. And I think he hit some. We talked about the third quarter run they made. I think that was almost keyed by hit. Like a couple of times he kind of tried to catch and go, and it's just like, no, you're 6'10", just rise up and shoot. And like
hit that one wing three in transition.
That was like the least set his feet were on a catch. He's like, oh, I'm gonna go up with this when he drained it. And then he was pretty aggressive with his shot taking the rest of the game. And even when they didn't go in, it's just the fear of a a 6'10" guy who shoots high 40s from three, just creates space in defensive movement. And so I think he's been excellent this series. All playoffs, he's been excellent on both ends. And I think for the most part, certainly in the second half last night, it continued.
Can we talk about him for a second? Just real quick. I know we got to move on, but like, talk about a dude who had a certain reputation going into this season, right? Not a good defender. It's an effort thing, whatever. We can argue about that stuff. Only cares about shots. Remember the stuff in the bubble when they were playing the Lakers? I need more shots. I wrote a story literally about that. about him talking and complaining about getting more, I need more opportunities. I need more shots and whatnot. And look at him now, defending his ass off, trying and competing on that end of the court, offensively playing it as a third option kind of role player, not hearing a peep about the complaints and whatnot and things like that. I don't necessarily like him too much off the court, but like the stuff he's done on the court, like you got to give him some love here. Like that's great development and that's great kind of maturity from him. And I think some of it's Malone, but I think you got to give a lot of credit to the kid himself. And I think that kind of maturity and understanding right now, it's massive from where they were a few years ago. Like this is huge. I never thought I'd see this from Porter.
Yeah, I will say this. I don't think that his defensive issues up until he figured it out, I don't think it was an effort thing. I actually felt like he tried hard. He's a good athlete. Obviously has a back issue that's been a problem for him, but I think it really was more a speed of the game. It was because he still gets lost off the ball. Like I'd rather have him on the ball than off the ball often. But he's turned himself into a hell of a shot contester, like a jump shot contester. This guy, he blocks jumpers often. Like he's gotten really good at avoiding the landing space foul and using his length, which it just matters, right? So it's not even that he's become some kind of like world-class defender. He's figured out how to use what he's got to be more than adequate. And I think he's actually in this series been really great. And on offense, letting the game come to him is fine. But one of the things I think the Nuggets are missing, and Seth, feel free to disagree with me, is Porter actually attacking. We've seen Jamal Murray do it. We've seen Jokic do it. I think late in game one, he started to do it. But I think Michael Porter as an offensive weapon it's being underutilized right now. And maybe on purpose. They haven't had to break it out. But that might be the big change in game 3.
What do you mean by being attacking?
Because I think Michael Porter Jr. can be more aggressive with the ball.
So if you're saying more aggressive, like I am, if you give me any daylight when I catch this, I'm going up.
Yes.
If you're talking about that kind of aggressive,
yes.
I agree. If you're talking,
I don't mean like dribbling and going isolation.
Yeah,
it's not his game. But I mean like he's passing up looks that are like they would be semi-contested for him, and I want him to shoot those because he can make them.
Because he's 6'10" and shoots 40-some% on contested threes.
It's like take Klay Thompson, make him taller. Just like go for it. And so I think that might be something, unlocking a little bit more aggression from him. And maybe this is a part of the game plan where it's just like, hey, we want to just take our time, go for great shot, not good shot. But I think Michael Porter's a guy who could be taking some of these sort of good looks rather than the great looks. And it would help relieve some of the pressure on the other guys. One thing everyone agrees on is more Michael Porter Jr.
Well, I just wasn't going to, I wanted to move on. I don't agree with the defensive stuff, but okay.
With the effort?
About he thinks it was more effort than
it was definitely part effort. I'm sorry. Like I've watched all of it. It's definitely part effort. Like it's genuinely just not, there was a time where he just didn't give a shit and wanted to shoot the fucking ball. And the massive,
well, I mean, that definitely is part of it.
I mean,
that's shooting the ball part.
That's effort. That's effort.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it.
Okay. You guys got anything else?
I think.
You guys got anything else on this series, or should we just wrap up the show?
We're not going to talk about the East at all.
We're 40 minutes into the show, guys.
No. We got it. All
right, let's talk about game 1 from the Eastern Conference Finals. Here's kind of the quote so far. This is from Eric Spoelstra on Jimmy Butler's impact. You can't quantify it. There's no analytic to it. Just the feeling of stability in the locker room. There's just a settling effect that is impossible to quantify. And Seth, this is sort of an analytics show. Do you guys have any analytics for intangibles?
No, that's why they're intangibles. If we had analytics for them, they would be tangibles. But this is an important point, is like a lot of times people say stuff like that and it's bullshit. Like our culture, blah, 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 blah. Or this is such a leader, blah, 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 blah. Which it's bullshit unless it isn't. And, certain cases like, Damian Lillard, Tim Duncan being great leaders. I think that there's some pretty strong evidence of that. Jimmy Butler having a settling of playoff Jimmy Butler specifically having a settling effect on his teammates I think at this point it's pretty hard to contest that as a just the fact that you have guys who are playing quote unquote above their head so consistently because they believe in what they're doing, and that kind of coming from, well, we got the best guy, so let's follow him and we'll get there. It's hard to quantify that. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like, how do you have, and maybe it's to some extent this is probably Fulcher being like a little bit modest, because I
Oh,
think it's probably as much Spo as it is Jimmy Butler. Like Gabe Vincent, no, I'm a playoff starting player. Caleb Martin, no, I am, any shot I take, this is a great shot. I can go head to head with anybody, and it's going to work. And just you can look down and you Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, like Kyle Lowry, still like Kyle Lowry's
coming
always
off the
been,
bench. Kyle
yeah.
Lowry coming off the bench. Kevin Love coming off the bench. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that stands out to me. But you're right. It is a lot of Spo being modest, because he mentioned stability. The Miami Heat as an organization, I mean, how long has Spo been the coach now? Was it what was it, 2010?
14,
2009?
15, 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Pat Riley has been in Miami for 30 years almost at this point. That's where the stability, like, you have a culture because you have a program, and it's different than most teams in the NBA. Mo, I mean, you were part of the program in San Antonio. It's similar, same vibes, right?
I mean, setting culture and maintaining your culture is probably the hardest things you can do as an organization. And I think the beauty of it with the Heat is, and we talk about this a ton, perfect alignment from the top all the way down. And I think it's and the expectations players know when they come in, this is what's expected of us. You're expected to work your ass off. You're expected to be tough. We don't give a shit about other things. We don't care about that kind of attitude and things like that. Being able to maintain that culture for as long as they have, it's goddamn impressive, man. It's so tough to keep that up. Just ask the Spurs. It's hard. It's so hard to maintain that. And I think that's that's kind of the genius in this team, in what they've done, and sort of like, and they found the perfect guy for them in Jimmy Butler. And I mean, just, we're what, 14 months, 15 months removed from Jimmy and Spo literally wanting to fight on the court. Spo's turning to Jimmy going, "You want to fight me?" Like, there's literally like that type of stuff. And there was nothing. There was no there was no suspension from the organization of Jimmy. They weren't turning around and ready to fire Spo. Like, there's just a level of just like, this is who we are. I mean, they are incredibly, they're insane as an
Yes.
organization. Like, they're psychopathic in a way. And like, let me put it, I was thinking about it when I was walking the dog the other day. I don't think I could ever work for the Heat. I don't think I'm tough enough. Like, it's that simple. Like, their way, like, I like other things. I like going to the movies, and like, that would be looked as a black mark with them. And that's kind of how they approach things. And I think that's sort of the stuff there with their culture. And they try to find guys that are all about that.
I would define their toughness a little bit. And about a month ago, a little over a month ago, I think Jason Quick wrote a Spo feature in the Athletic, which I think people should go look. I think it's called like the Tao of Spo or something like that. My takeaway from it, and the thing that separates them, and this is where the toughness comes from, is a lot of people in the NBA, and we can start from the commissioner's office on down, a runaway from tough conversations. And what we're talking about with like Spo and Jimmy Butler getting into it on the court, it's like, bring it on. Let's have the conversation. We're gonna have the conversation. We're gonna hash it out. We're gonna shake hands afterwards, and on to the next. And just the way we do things is, when we disagree, we have enough trust that we're coming from a place of, we just want to win. We're gonna hash it out. We're gonna move on. And this is not going to be, the conversation is not going to be fun. There's going to be yelling and screaming, maybe even some scratching and clawing. We're going to deal with it. We're going to move on. And that's, I think that's that level of kind of brutal honesty and sort of productive confrontationalism. That's hard. That's a different kind of toughness, because the level of security you have to have, and the willingness to, frankly, the willingness to eat shit when it's.
Oh, we got a little freezing issue with Seth. I think what he's trying to say, I mean, obviously, is that when it gets tough and you have a culture to fall back on, it makes things easier. I mean, again, like your time in San Antonio, like it's similar. It's a similar situation where you have that organizational infrastructure, right? And we call it culture, but it really is infrastructure. This is the support system that holds this whole thing up. And Jimmy Butler fits in perfectly with that.
Right. And it's just and it's finding the guys that fit that. And sometimes those guys may not be extremely talented, but look at what they've done and the guys they've turned around. They turning Gabe Vincent into a playoff starter. Caleb Martin, has been phenomenal this playoffs. And, I think there's an element to like, this is going to sound mean. And Seth has heard this from me before, but I think the Victor Oladipo injury and the Tyler Hero injury has helped the Heat because they have to play these guys. And these guys are proving that, hey, we belong here. I thought Caleb Martin should have played last season a lot more in the playoffs over Victor Oladipo. And now Spo has to in this case there. And I think that's like a big thing right there for them in this run and those things. But those guys were also ready for it. And the Heat expect them to be ready for them. And that's part of that culture stuff that they do. And everybody can get tired of the buzzwords or whatever. That shit's real. And the teams with good culture, like you're telling me Denver doesn't have a good culture, they got fucking tired of Bones Highland and punted him to the Clippers for nothing. And I think that's like the idea that you're looking at from them is, culture is a thing that can be set and can carry you a long way. And no shocker right now, granted, it's only been one game in that Eastern Conference Finals, but both those teams are up in the conference finals right now in their series. They have the best culture.
I think I don't remember if this is a Spo quote or not, but if it's not, it should be. And it's a paraphrase anyway. It's like culture is not something you have, it's something you do.
Right.
And I think that's what we're seeing. And by the way, great point by Mo on Denver having that also, because I think Malone has a little bit of the same thing in being not afraid to have, like, among coaches who've been around a while, usually like the lighting your team up in the media is sort of, a card you can only go to so many times. It has a shelf life. He's a guy who does it a fair amount, but he never seems like he loses the team. So obviously there's something going on there. There's enough trust that it's like, hey, if he's saying that, we probably deserve it.
Yeah.
And that speaks well of them and him.
Game one. I mean, obviously game two's tonight. We're recording this Friday morning, and game one, Jason Tatum down the stretch did not take a shot. Didn't take a single shot in the fourth quarter. I mean, is that kind of the biggest problem for Boston, is just getting Jason Tatum more involved late?
I mean, he did turn the ball over a bunch.
It travels.
It wasn't for a lack of trying that they didn't get the shot. He didn't get shots or whatnot. I think it comes down to just they don't know who they are offensively. And I say this all the time about their offense. It looks good when the shots are falling, but a lot of it is all one-on-one and things like that. In the first half, though, when they're playing faster and playing with more tempo, they look good and they get good shots out of that stuff. I think they need to play that way, and I think that's an important aspect for them. But at the end of the day, it's just like they need to toughen up. They need kind of that tough juice that the Heat have, because they're just I picked the Heat in this series only based on toughness, because I don't think Celtics are tough enough to go at the Heat when things get down. They gave up 46 points in the third quarter, man. They weren't pissed. There wasn't a dude yelling at each other. Like, they weren't screaming at each other. They weren't getting in each other's faces about what the fuck are we doing? Like, there's a level of toughness there that I think needs to kind of step up there. I mean, they weren't even yelling at Joe Mazzulla. Like, what are we doing here?
And that was going to be my next question, is this where the difference in coaching style between Ime Udoka and Joe Mazzulla, might be the difference between this team being a conference finalist and a finals team?
Yeah, I mean, Udoka was the toughest guy on that team last year, which is rare to say the coach is the toughest guy, but their toughness came from him. And I think that was an important aspect of it. And look, I don't think Joe is particularly a bad coach. I just don't think he's a good coach for this team. I think what they need and everything they have going forward, I think this is too early for him to be in the head coaching position. I think he'll grow and learn, and we'll see how that develops. And we never talk about coaches developing, but I think this is something that we'll see from him maybe over the years, or if this is who he is as a coach, he's never going to be that great of a coach. And I think we'll figure it out over time. But I think they for sure miss Udoka's toughness, and Joe just doesn't provide that.
I think again, I want to refer to the athletic profile on Spo, because he talks a little bit about. I'm not sure if Spo talks about it or if he got it from David Fisdale, but early in his coaching career, after the 2011 finals, he realized he had to get tougher, and part of that confrontationalism that we talked about was part of that. Mo, you said something earlier about the Heat culture kind of being insane. And I think there's a benefit here that ties into the structure of the playoffs. And I think we talked about Boston's lack of time. Is it lack of toughness, or is Miami just better conditioned with the games every other day? I think that's something that so many of these games seem like they come down to two heavyweights in the 10th round have been slugging it out, and whoever can find the most legs to throw a couple more haymakers. And with games every other, and the level of intensity and effort being put forth, are the Heat just better situated to take care of that because of how crazy they are as an organization about fitness and conditioning?
Well, I think that was the theme during the bubble, right? Like the bubble was the Heat screaming, "Oh, we're built for this. This is right up our fucking alley." Like that was them. I think that's why. And this is why I've kind of fallen off the Celtics quite a bit throughout these playoffs, is that's why you don't go 6 games against the Hawks. That's why you don't go 7 games against the Sixers. Like, yeah, fatigue's part of it for sure. They've played more games than the Heat at this point. Like the Heat do have fresher legs, and I think that's part of it. And that's the playoffs though. And again, it goes back to what I was screaming at LeBron. Yeah, it's tough. It's supposed to be tough. This is when you're supposed to dig here. And this is when you need to step up. If you're the Celtics, you want to be a finals team. You want to get back to the finals. You got a taste of it last year, and you got to fucking go win now. And that's kind of the deal right there. It is tough. This shit isn't built for weak teams.
Yeah. It's game 2. So Boston is probably going to shoot 800% from 3 and win by about 30. You guys got anything else before we wrap up? All right. Well, that's going to do it for the show, folks. Thank you guys for listening. For Seth and Mo, I'm Dave DeFore, and this has been Nerder, She Wrote, on the Athletic NBA Show.